Hello, YouTube. Welcome to Silmarillion Sunday, part 14. Apologies for the delay in uploading these videos. Had to take a couple of Sundays off, but we are back and happy to be here. This is going to feature Chapter 17 of The Coming of Men into the West. And this is kind of the last chapter where things remain in that 200 to 300 year status quo. Also, in case you didn't notice, I did change where the camera is. If you don't like it or you do like it, let me know in the comments section down below. Changing things up, seeing how it goes. We are going to go ahead and get started. Also, once again, before we start, thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in checking out the stream live, we are live here on Silmarillion Sunday every noon Eastern time, every Sunday. And then we are also live just hanging out, playing games and doing ridiculous Lord of the Rings shtick on Wednesdays and Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern time. But again, you can also catch all of this on Twitch and YouTube as well. So, when we last left off, we had the chapter of Maeglin. Now, Maeglin is kind of going to be forgotten for a little while. Tolkien does that. He introduces characters and then just immediately gets rid of them for a while. Also, thank you to Nifredel6 for the follow. Much appreciated. I think what I'm going to do is, if you're already this far in, you probably remember the general idea of what is happening. So I'm not going to go into too specific of a recap. Suffice it to say that there are a bunch of elves in Middle-earth in various different realms. Some of them don't even like each other, and some of them do. And they're all fighting against Sauron's master Morgoth. Also, thank you to JC Money for the follow. Much appreciated. And thank you, Sarah Malloy, for extending your Tier 1 subscription through May. Thank you, thank you. And also, if anybody is interested, you can use Twitch Prime to subscribe to the channel. It really does help support all of us here. Also, for my YouTube folks, in case you haven't seen, we did release new merch. I got to get out of the way of the microphone. This says Toss Me in the Dwarvish Kirth runes. I did it letter by letter, so that's TOSSME. If you are interested, the link to it will be in the description below, as well as all of my other merch. So if you are interested, please go check that out. In the meantime, we are going to get started on Chapter 17 of The Coming of Men into the West. We haven't had a great deal of humans show up in this portion of the book so far, and only a few human families or lineages get mentioned. And this is kind of when we start to see them making a name for themselves. All right, so let's begin. Chapter 17 of The Coming of Men into the West. When 300 and more... Oh, we are starting off strong today. Try that again. 3, 2. When 300 years and more were gone since the Noldor came to Beleriand, in the days of the Long Peace, Finrod Felagund, lord of Nargothrond, journeyed east of Sirion and went hunting with Meglor and Maethros, sons of Feanor. But he wearied of the chase and passed on alone towards the mountains of Ered Lindon, that he saw shining afar. So those are like the mountains in the east, like the east of Middle-earth at this point. And taking the dwarf road, he crossed Gelion at the ford of Sarn Athrad. You don't have to remember that part. And turning south over the upper streams of Askar, he came into the north of Osiriand. In the valley among the foothills of the mountains, below the springs of Thalos, he saw lights in the evening, and far off he heard the sounds of song. At this he wondered much, for the green elves of that land lit no fires, nor did they sing by night. At first he feared that a raid of orcs had passed the leaguer of the north, but as he drew near, he perceived it was not so, for the singers used the tongue that he had not heard before, neither that of dwarves nor of orcs. Then Felagund, standing silent in the night shadows of the trees, looked down into the camp, and there he beheld a strange people. Now these were a part of the kindred and following of Beor the Old. For spelling, that's B-E-O-R with an accent over the E, Beor the Old. as he was afterwards called, a chieftain among men. After many lives of wandering out of the east, he had led them at last over the Blue Mountains, the first of the race of men to enter Beleriand. So at this point right now, a lot of the elves are far over into the western part of Middle-earth beyond the, you remember we did a couple of weeks ago, there was that mountain range, and then to the east of it was like the rest of Middle-earth. Men have been hanging out, or humans, I should say, have been hanging out in this area for quite a while. After many lives of wandering out of the east, he had led them at last over the Blue Mountains, the first of the race of men to enter Beleriand. And they sang because they were glad, and believed that they had escaped from all perils, and had come at last to a land without fear. Again, Tolkien's subtlety and foreshadowing is like a train wreck on fire. And then that train wreck on fire is like in the middle of a snowstorm or something. Long Felagund watched them, and love for them stirred in his heart. But he remained hidden in the trees until they had all fallen asleep. Then he went among the sleeping peoples and sat beside their dying fire where none kept watch, and he took up a rude harp which Beor had lain aside, and he played music upon it, such as the ears of men had not heard. For they had as yet no teacher of the art, save only the dark elves of the wild lands. Now men awoke and listened to Felagund, as he harped and sang, and each thought that he was in some fair dream. And each thought that he was in some fair dream, until he saw that his fellows were awake also beside him. But they did not speak, nor stir while Felagund still played, because of the beauty of the music and the wonder of the song. Wisdom was in the words of the elven king, and the hearts grew wiser that hearkened to him. For the things of which he sang, of the making of Arda, of the bliss of Aman, beyond the shadows of the seas, came as clear visions before their eyes, and his elvish speech was interpreted in each mind according to its measure. So this is kind of one of those cool elvish powers that doesn't ever really get mentioned, but it can be interpreted in different ways. Also, special thank you to JoeNell89 for the follow. Thank you. So the people that are listening to this are hearing him speak in Elvish physically with their ears, but in their minds, it's a kind of elven magic and magic of the land that can translate into their heads and give them visions. So these men get a glimpse of what the Undying Lands look like, of the Valar, of the two trees, all of those things that could that were in the past, and some that still are. You can sort of translate that through music, and that's a great way of Tolkien sort of taking his elven magic and sort of giving it a clear structure, because we don't always get that. All right, I'll keep going. Thus it was that men called King Felagund, whom they first met of all the Eldar, Nom, N-O-M with an accent over the O. That is, wisdom, in the language of that people. And after him they named his folk Nomin, the wise. Indeed, they believed at first that Felagund was one of the Valar, of whom they had heard rumors that they dwelt far into the west, and this was, some say, the cause of their journeying. But Felagund dwelt among them, and taught them true knowledge, and they loved him, and took him for their lord, and were ever after loyal to the house of Finarfin. That's how you win allies in this world. Just play them a bunch of music and teach them a bunch of stuff. All right. Now the Eldar were beyond all other peoples, skilled in tongues, and Felagund discovered also that he could read the minds of men, very similar to Galadriel. Actually, I'm pretty sure these two are related. My elven lineage is not as good as it once was. I believe these two are related. Or I believe Finrod Felagund is related to Galadriel. Don't exactly remember. Also, Tin Fizzy, thank you for the resub. You have been subbed for 4 months. Much appreciated. Also, thank you to Darton with a 1. Thank you for the follow. Much appreciated. All right, let's keep it going. It is also said that these men had long had dealings with the dark elves east of the mountains, and from them had learned much of their speech, and since all languages of Quendi were of one origin, the language of Beor and his people resembled the elven tongue in many words and devices. It was not long, therefore, before Felagund could hold converse with Beor, and while he dwelt with him, they spoke much together. But when he questioned him concerning the arising of men and their journeying, Beor would say little, and indeed he knew little, for the fathers of his people had told few tales of their past, and a silence had fallen upon their memory. "A darkness lies behind us," Beor said, "and we have turned our backs upon it. And we do not desire to return thither, even in thought. Westward our hearts have been turned, and we believe that there we shall find light." And there's an interesting point here. Light has a capital L there. So in the English language, as has been previously said in a few other episodes that we've done here, when Tolkien capitalizes something, it usually means more significance, or it will come up later. In this case, the light is call it a physical manifestation, or a concept that that these humans hold in reverence. All right, let's keep it going. "But it was said afterwards among the Eldar that when men awoke in Hildorian at the rising of the sun, the spies of Morgoth were watchful, and tidings were soon brought to him. And this seemed to him so great a matter that secretly, under shadow, he himself departed from Angband and went forth into Middle-earth, leaving to Sauron the command of the war. Of his dealings with men, the Eldar indeed knew nothing at that time, and learnt but little afterwards, but that a great darkness lay upon the hearts of men, as the shadow of the kinslaying and the doom of Mandos lay upon the Noldor." So there's a little bit of a foil here, right? Men got corrupted by Morgoth in kind of the same way that there is corruption in the elves because of the kinslaying and the doom of Mandos. Sorry, I lost my place here. Here we go. "They perceived clearly, even in the people of the elf friends whom they first knew. To corrupt or destroy whatsoever arose new and fair was ever the chief desire of Morgoth, and doubtless he had this purpose also in his errand, by fear and lies to make men and the foes of the Eldar, and bring them up out of the sea, out of the east, against Beleriand. But this design was slow to ripen, and was never wholly achieved. For men, it is said, were at first very few in number, whereas Morgoth grew afraid of the growing power and union of the Eldar, and came back to Angband, leaving behind at the time but few servants, and those of less might and cunning." So I'll pause there and take questions, if anybody has them, over on Twitch. Very quick shout out to everyone over on TikTok. If anyone is interested, I am doing a live reading of the Silmarillion. We are on chapter 17 of The Coming of Men into the West, of the book that is the Silmarillion. For those that don't know, is the book that Tolkien wrote about the First Age. Also, thank you to Kroger for the follow. Much appreciated. Thank you. In the meantime, I will just check chat for any questions. And I don't see any right now. Again, this is kind of to sort of recap what has happened. Finrod Felagund, one of the elven princes who is fighting against Morgoth, is finding out that humans are now a part of the world a little bit more, and these humans have come over the Blue Mountains to hang out in basically the Elven realms, and the humans are basically saying, "Yeah, right, this is great. We are free from all of the bad stuff that was haunting us before." Little do they know, and you get the sense that these humans were sort of a wandering people, right? That there was not much in their way in terms of like kingdoms and great cities over in the east at this point in their time. They were more or less nomads. In the meantime, I do not see any questions, so I am going to keep going. If I do see questions pop up, I will mention them in the chat, and we will keep going. This passage is, as you go further, you do get the Silmarillion being a little bit more self-explanatory as you read. But it is because those first few chapters are so dense and so complicated and introduce so many concepts that a lot of people don't keep with it. And that is totally fine, right? I get it. Silmarillion's hard. Also, special thank you to Morgul123 for the follow. All right, here we go. Now Felagund learned from Beor that there were many other men of like mind who were also journeying westward. Others of my own kin have crossed the mountains, he said, but they are wandering not far away, and the Haladin, the people of whom we were sundered in speech, are still in the valley of the eastern slope, awaiting tidings before they venture further. There are yet other men whose tongues is more like ours, with whom we have had dealings at times. They were before us on the westward march, but we passed them. For they are a numerous people, and yet keep together, and move slowly, being all ruled by one chieftain, whom they call Marach, M-A-R-A-C-H. Now the green elves of Osiriand were troubled by the coming of men, and when they heard that the lords of the Eldar were coming over the sea was among them, they sent messengers to Felagund. Lord, they said, if you have power over these newcomers, bid them return by their ways that they came, or else go forward. For we desire no strangers in this land, to break the peace in which we live. And these folks are hewers of trees and hunters of beasts. Therefore, we were their unfriends. And it literally says, we are their unfriends, not we are not friends. Tolkien sort of takes that archaic style of language and uses it with these wood elves. Therefore, we are their unfriends, and if they will not depart, we shall afflict them in all ways that we can. Then by the advice of Felagund, Beor gathered all the wandering families and kindreds of his people, and they removed over Gelion, and took up their abode in the lands of Amrod and Amras, upon the east bank of the Kellon, south of Non Elmoth. Again, you don't have to remember all of this. This is just places. If you study the map and you recognize where this is, awesome. But again, the geography of the First Age is tough. Also, Mr. Rorin, thank you for the follow. Much appreciated. Someone's gonna clip my saying the word much appreciated and have a counter going. All right, here we go. And the name of that land thereafter was Estolad, the encampment. But when after a year had passed, Felagund wished to return to his own country. Beor begged leave to come with him, and he remained in the service of the king of Nargothrond while his life lasted. In this way, he got his name, Beor, whereas his name before had been Balan, for Beor signifies vassal in the tongue of his people. The rule of his folk he committed to Baran, his son, B-A-R-A-N is his son, his elder son, and he did not return again to Estolad. So that's kind of one of those cool things of okay, we are here, the elves are going to teach you everything they can, Felagund is going to do what he can, but you can just have a year go by, and that's like nothing to the elves. That's like an hour to us well, maybe not an hour, but it's close. It's close to a shorter time than we would understand. When you've been alive for, at this point, several thousand years, and you've only been in Middle Earth probably 300 plus-ish, it's like nothing. Soon after the departure of Felagund, the other men of whom Beor had spoken came also into Beleriand. First came the Haladin, but meeting the unfriendship of the Green Elves, they turned north and dwelt in Thargelion, in the country of Caranthir, son of Feanor. There, for a time, they had peace, and the people of Caranthir paid little heed to them. In the next year, Marach led his people over the mountains. They were a tall and warlike folk, marching in ordered companies, and the elves of Osiriand hid themselves and did not waylay them. But Marak, hearing that the people of Beor were dwelling in the green and fertile land, came down the dwarf road and settled in the country south and east of the dwellings of Barad, son of Beor. And there was great friendship between those people. Isn't it nice to see people getting along? Right? You know what's going to happen, though. Sorry, I got very serious there for a second. I couldn't resist. Oh, man. And there was great friendship between these people. Yeah, good. Felagund himself often returned to visit men, and many other elves out of the Westlands, both Noldor and Sindar, journeyed to Estelad, being eager to see the Edain, which is what the elves refer to human as, the Edain. And it was there used only of the three kindreds of the elf kind. Oh, hang on. Sorry, I totally skipped something. Being eager to see the Edain, whose coming had long been foretold. Now, Atani, the second people, was the name given to men in Valinor, in the lore that told of their coming. But in the speech of Beleriand, that name became Edain, and it was there used only of the three kindreds of the elf friends. All right. Fingolfin, as king of all the Noldor, sent messengers of welcome to them, and then many young and eager to learn of the Edain went away and took service with the kings and lords of the Eldar. Among them was Malak, son of Marak. So Marak, the other chieftain of men, his son Malak, Malach. You'll notice that sometimes Tolkien only differentiates the son of somebody or daughter of somebody by one letter. Is it confusing? Yes. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Among them was Malak, son of Marak, and he dwelt in Hithlum for 14 years, and he learned the Elven tongue, and was given the name Aradan. The Edain did not long dwell content in Estelad, for many still desired to go westward, but they did not know the way. Before them lay the fences of Doriath, and the southern and southward lay Sirion and its impassable fens. Therefore the kings of the three houses of the Noldor, seeing hope of strength in the sons of men, sent word that any of the Edain that wished might remove and come to dwell among their people. In this way the migration of the Edain began, at first little by little, but later in families and kindreds they arose and left Estelad, until after some 50 years, many thousands had entered the lands of the kings. Most of these took the long road northward, but until the ways became well known to them. The people of Beor came to Dorthonion, and dwelt in lands ruled by the house of Finarfin. The people of Aradan, for Marak his father remained in Estelad until his death. So, sorry. This is... these are the people of Malak, that son of the chieftain who I said had the one letter change. That's him. They're all coming over westward. And some came to Hithlum, but Magor, son of Aradan, and many other people passed down Sirion into Beleriand, and dwelt for a while in the vales of the southern slopes of Ered Wethrin. I'm going to stop there for a second, because my goodness. Now, do you have to remember all of this? Of course not. That would be absolutely ridiculous. All you have to know at this point right now is that the elves, specifically Felagund, went over the mountains, found humans, and brought them over. And as there are more and more and more, several thousands are there. All right. So we are getting the names of humans, but hang on. Am I saying it incorrectly? I have to emphasize the R. Finarfin. Anyway, Finarfin. Like a long R. Oh, you're just having fun in chat. Okay. Anybody have any questions at this point? Also, once again, if anybody is interested over on TikTok, come check us out over on Twitch. We are live reading the Silmarillion, Chapter 17 of The Coming of Men. Also, the audio quality is a lot better, I promise. All right. So, where are we? There we go. It is said that in all these matters, none save Finrod Felagund took counsel with King Thingol, and he was ill-pleased, both for that reason and because he was troubled by the dreams concerning the comings of men, ere the first tidings of them were heard. Therefore he commanded that men should take no lands to dwell in, save in the north, and that the princes whom they served should be answerable for all that they did. And he said, Into Doriath shall no man come while my realm lasts, not even those of the house of Beor who serve Finrod the beloved. Melian said nothing to him at that time, but afterwards she said to Galadriel, Now the world runs on swiftly to greater tidings, and one of men, and even of Beor's house, shall indeed come, and the girdle of Melian shall not restrain him, for doom greater than my power shall send him, and the songs that shall spring from the coming halls shall endure when all Middle-earth is changed. We got another prophecy. So Melian, so just to remember, right? In the middle of Middle-earth, at this point, there is this giant forest. And there is a king named Thingol who lives there with his wife Melian, who is one of the lesser gods. They just put a giant force field around their entire realm, right? And now all of a sudden, Melian, the wife who put the giant force field there, is like, all right, I know we're not allowing humans into our realm, but I think there's going to be one that's going to come into our realm and is going to screw things up. And if it's not going to screw things up, he's going to be the forebearer of screwing things up. That's what that prophecy said. Actually, I'm going to read that again, just so we all get a sense, because it's important later on. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Chris from space. Melian said, bet. She did. Into Doriath shall come no man while my... Oh, no, hang on, that's Thingol. Here we go. But afterwards she said to Galadriel, Now the world runs on swiftly to great tidings, and one of men, even of Beor's house, shall indeed come, and the girdle of Melian shall not restrain him. For doom greater than my power shall send him, and the songs that shall spring from the coming shall endure when all Middle-earth is changed. So let's break that down for half a second, right? Melian is a Maya, who is one of the... I usually refer to them as like demigods-ish, because remember, there's Eru at the top, then there's the Ainur, who are beings of his thought. The Ainur have two subsects, the Valar and the Maiar. The Valar are over in the Undying Lands. The Maiar, at least Melian, is here in Middle-earth. There's also Ulmo, who is in the waters of Middle-earth, who's basically Poseidon. Now, whether or not this is a prophecy versus whether this is like foreshadowing or them having a hunch, it's unclear. Also, the dog is here. Hang on. Say hi, River. I know y'all want to spam that emoji, and because we're a little bit lower, you can't see River when she comes through. Okay, so, yeah. Thank you all for spamming the emoji. Subscribe to the Twitch channel if you want the emoji of my dog. Or no, not emoji. Emote. It's the emote. Anyway. So yeah, you got to think about that for like half a second. What is more powerful than a Maiar, right? One of the Ainur, one of the Valar. So Melian is kind of getting a sense like, I think the Valar are going to get involved in this. I'm having some sort of foreshadowing. Hope that helps. Because that's kind of a confusing... Whenever Tolkien gets into prophecy, I like to try and break it down. All right, let's keep it going. But many men returned to Estolad, and there was still a mingled people living there long years after, until the ruin of Beleriand they were overwhelmed or fled back to the east. For besides the old who deemed that their wandering days were over, There were not a few who desired to go their own way, and they feared the Eldar and the light of their eyes. And then dissension awoke among the Edain, in which the shadow of Morgoth may be discerned. For certain it is that he knew of the coming of men into Beleriand, and of their growing friendship with the elves. Dun dun dun. Also, Tin Fizzy, thank you so much for the gift sub. Much appreciated. That's like 3 today, times I've said much appreciated. It's probably way more. Anyway. The leaders of discontent were Bereg, of the house of Beor, and Amlak, one of the grandsons of Marak. And they said openly, "We took long roads, desiring to escape the perils of Middle-earth, and the dark things that dwell there. For we heard that there was light in the west." Again, capital L. "But now we learn that the light is beyond the sea. Thither we cannot come, where the gods dwell in bliss, save one, for the Lord of the Dark is here before us, and the Eldar, wise but fell, who make endless war upon him. In the north he dwells, they say, and there is the pain and death from which we fled. We will not go that way." This also, actually, this is a great part that I can kind of call out. A lot of people who only read the trilogy are very curious about the religion and what lies beyond in the Undying Lands. This is a great passage to make mention of. The men who are interacting with these elves learn of the Valar, so humans are aware that there are the Valar, the lesser gods of Tolkien's universe, but they're on a different continent. They know that they exist, but they don't quite know what they are yet. There's still some sort of shifty, some shiftiness around it. So they are aware that they exist, but there's no sort of desire to worship these beings at all. Also, Emily Thomas, thank you for the follow, and Telvin, thank you for the gift sub. Much appreciated. Thank you. All right. Let's keep it going. Here we go. "Then a council and assembly of men was called, and great numbers came together. And the elf friends answered Bereg, saying, 'Truly, from the Dark King come all the evils from which we fled. But he seeks dominion over all Middle-earth, and whither now shall we turn, and he will not pursue us?'" So basically they're saying, where would we go? Where are we going to go? They're going to find us. Morgoth's going to find us. "Unless he be vanquished here, or at least held in leaguer. Only by the valor of the Eldar is he restrained, and maybe it was for this purpose, to aid them at need, that we were brought into this land." So they're saying maybe we are here for a purpose. To this, Bereg answered, "Let the Eldar look to it. Our lives are short enough." But there arose one who seemed at all to be Amlak, son of Imlak, speaking fell words that shook the hearts of all that heard him. "All this is but elvish lore, tales of beguiled newcomers that are unwary. The sea has no shore. There is no light in the west. You have followed a fool fire of the elves to the end of the world. Which of you has seen the least of the gods? Who has beheld the Dark King in the north? Those who seek the dominion of Middle-earth are the Eldar. Greedy for wealth, they have delved in the earth for the secrets and have stirred the wrath of things that dwelled beneath it, as they have ever done and ever shall. Let the orcs have the realm that is theirs, and we will have ours. There is room in the world if the Eldar will let us be." Strong words, and not the last time that humans will say, "Let the elves deal with it." Not the last time elves will have that same thought, "Let the humans deal with it," right? And you know what? Magpie is saying in the chat, he's not entirely wrong. There is maybe some credence to the idea that maybe we as humans, they're saying that maybe we as humans do let the elves go, let the orcs go. But remember, Morgoth desires to rule over Middle-earth entirely. It is a back and forth, a constant who's going to fight here, who's going to fight there, boom, 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 back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the question becomes, who's going to blink first? To use a American idiom, who's going to take that first step and gain that extra ground and keep going and fight? And for now, the elves have been content to just kind of hold Morgoth at bay. It's been close to 300 years since there was really a huge fight, I think. Also, Telvin, thank you again for another gift sub. Very kind of you. Much appreciated. That's 5 times. All right. Let's keep it going, because there is a response to this. Then those that listened sat for a while astounded, and the shadow of fear fell on their hearts, and they resolved to depart far from the lands of the Eldar. But afterwards Amlach returned among them, and denied that he had been present at their debate, or had spoken such words as they reported. And there was doubt and bewilderment among men. Then the elf friends said, "You will now believe this at least. There is indeed a dark lord, and his spies and emissaries are among us, for he fears us and the strength that we may give to his foes." Did you catch that? Morgoth sent one of his shapeshifters into a council of men and made that shapeshifter look like Amlach. So, Magpie, when you say he's not entirely wrong, sorry, you did just kind of side with Morgoth. Just a little bit. It's okay. It happens to the best of us. All right, here we go. But some still answered, "He hates us, rather, and ever the more the longer we dwell here, meddling in his quarrel with the kings of the Eldar, to no gain of ours." Many, therefore, of those that yet remained in Estelad made ready to depart, and Bereg led 1,000 of the people of Beor away southward, and they passed out of the songs of those days. But Amlach repented, saying, "I have now a quarrel of my own with this master of lies, which will last to my life's end." And he went away north and entered the service of Maethros. But those of his people, who were of like mind with Bereg, chose a new leader, and they went back over the mountains into Eriador, and are forgotten. So, in a way, I'll pause there. If anyone has any questions in the chat, feel free to ask them. Also, a reminder that what just happened was that the Master of Lies, Morgoth, has in a way succeeded, because a large league of humans have suddenly said, "All right, well, I mean, we're gone. We're gone. We're not going to do this anymore. We don't want that baggage." And in a way, it's kind of a question of, oh, is this how it happens? And Tin, you make a good point. Tin Fizzy just said, you got to respect Morgoth. He's good at what he does. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And he is very good at what he does. And also, hang on. I just want to make sure that we are... Notes on pronunciation. Hang on. We may have just reached... Did we reach it yet? All right. We're approaching the halfway point of this book. Cannot believe we've been doing this for this long, but it's been a blast. Let's keep it going. All right, so a bunch of humans have just left again. Just totally gone. All right. During this time, the Haladin remained in Thargelion and were content. But Morgoth, seeing that by lies and deceit he could not yet wholly estrange elves from men, was filled with wrath, and endeavored to do men what hurt he could. Therefore he sent out an orc raid, and passing east it escaped the leaguer, and came in stealth back over Ered Lindon by the passes of the dwarf road, and fell upon the Haladin in the southern wood in the land of Caranthir. That's one of the sons of Feanor. Now the Haladin did not live under the roof... Oh, excuse me, that's my dog. Chill. I know. Hey, chill. It's another dog. I know. Sorry, y'all. I know. You want to see the dog again? Hang on. Stay here. I need to get the camera. Hey, hey, come here, come here, come here. You're really cute. You're really cute. Sorry if I'm giving anybody dizziness for all of this. All right. Now the Halidin did not live under the rule of lords or many together, but each homestead was set apart and governed its own affairs. And they were slow to unite. But there was among them a man named Haldad, Haldad, who was masterful and fearless. And he gathered all the brave men that he could find and retreated into the angle of land between Ascar and Gelion. And in the utmost corner he built a stockade across from water to water, and behind it they led all the women and children that they could save. There they were besieged until their food was gone. Haled had twin children, Haleth his daughter, and Haldar his son, and both were valiant in the defense, for Haleth was a woman of great heart and strength. But at last Haled was slain in a sortie against the orcs, and Haldar, who rushed out to save his father's body from their butchery, was hewn down beside him. Then Haleth led the people together, though they were without hope, and some cast themselves in the river and were drowned. But 7 days later, as the orcs made their last assault, and had already broken through the stockade, there came suddenly the music of trumpets. And Caranthir, with his host, came down from the north and drove the orcs into the rivers. Then Caranthir looked kindly upon men, and did Haleth great honor, and he offered her recompense for her father and brother. And seeing overlate what valor there was in the Edain, he said to her, "If you will remove and dwell further north, there you shall have the friendship and protection of the Eldar, and free lands of your own." So he's finally repenting, right? But Haleth was proud, and unwilling to be guided or ruled, and most of the Halidin were of like mood. Therefore she thanked Caranthir, but answered, "My mind is now set, Lord, to leave the shadow of the mountain and go west, whither others of our kin have gone." When therefore the Halidin had gathered all whom they could find alive of their folk who had fled into the woods before the orcs, and had gleaned what remained of their goods in their burned homesteads, they took Haleth for their chief, and she led them, at last, to Estelad, and there dwelt for a time. But they remained a people apart, and were ever known to elves and men as the people of Halath. Halath remained their chief while her days lasted, but she did not wed, and the headship afterwards passed to Haldad, son of Haldar, her brother. Soon, however, Haleth desired to move westward again, and though most of her people were against this counsel, she led them forth once more. And they went without help or guidance of the Eldar, passing over Kelon and Aros. They journeyed into perilous lands between the Mountain of Terror and the Girdle of Melian. Now, just to give you an idea, this very strong, well-written female character that Tolkien has written, so, props Tolkien, is journeying in between the giant forest that has the force field around it and the mountain barrier, basically, where Morgoth's forces sometimes hang out, right? This is the place where Morgoth was almost eaten by Ungoliant, and the screams can still be heard in this mountain range. This is that area. It's not a great place. That land was even then not yet so evil as it after became, but it was no road for mortal men to take without aid. And Halath only brought her people through with the hardship and loss, constraining them to go forward by the strength of her will. At last they crossed over the Brekiak, and many bitterly repented of their journey. But there was now no returning. Therefore, in new lands they went back to their old life as best they could, and they dwelt in free homesteads in the woods of Talath Dirnin, beyond Teglin, and some wandered far into the realms of Nargothrond, But there were many who loved the Lady Halath, and wished her to go whither she would, and dwell under her rule. And these she led into the forest of Brethiel, between Teglin and Sirion. Thither in the evil days that followed, many of her scattered folk returned. Now Brethiel was claimed as part of his realm by King Thingol. Remember, King Thingol, guy in the giant force field with his magical elf wife. Not a happy camper, but very proud of what he's done. Not a happy camper. I just described like everyone in the Silmarillion. I mean, it's not far off. It's not far off. All right. Now Brethiel was claimed as part of his realm by King Thingol, though it was not within the girdle of Melian, and he would have denied it to Halath. But Felagund, who had great friendship with Thingol, hearing of all that had befallen the people of Halath, obtained this grace for her, that she should dwell free in Brethiel, upon the condition only that her people should guard the crossing of Teglin against the enemies of the Eldar, and allow no orcs to enter their woods. To this Halath answered, "Where are Haldad my father, and Haldar my brother? If the king of Doriath fears a friendship between Halath and those who have devoured her kin, then the thoughts of the Eldar are strange to men. And Halath dwelt in Brethiel until she died, and her people raised a green mound over her in the height of the forest, Tur Haretha, the Lady Barrow, Haude en Arwen, in the Sindarin tongue." Hang on one second, because I need to Google something. Because that might be what I think it is. It is HAUDH-N-ARWEN. Now, I need to Google that because I am not entirely sure. This is one of those things I'm not entirely sure. Haleth was the daughter. Yeah. Can roughly be translated into Lady Barrow. The actual translation would be Mound of the Noble Maiden. The element Arwen has no direct connection to Arwen Avenstar, who lived a millennia after Haleth's time, but it does give insight into the origin of her name. Sindarin Arwen means High Maiden, and it is translated here as Lady. Okay, so a little bit of a fun fact for you, because I remember looking at this one of the first times I saw it, and I couldn't remember the fact off the top of my head. So, now, again, we don't quite get the reference to Arwen in a one-for-one translation, but still kind of a cool thing. Okay, we are approaching the end of this chapter. All right. Food was gone. Lady Barrow. Here we go. In this way it came to pass that the Edain dwelt in the lands of the Eldar. Some here, some there, some wandering, some settled in kindreds or small people. But the most part of them soon learned the Grey Elven tongue, both as a common speech among both as a common speech among themselves and because many were eager to learn the lore of the elves. But after a time the elf kings, seeing that it was not good for elves and men to dwell mingled together without order, that the men needed lords of their own kind, set regions apart where men could live their own lives, and appointed chieftains to hold these lands freely. They were the allies of the Eldar in war, but marched under their own leaders. Yet many of the Edain had delight in the friendship of the elves, and dwelt among them for so long as they had leave, and the young men often took service for a time in the hosts of their kings. Also, Tin Fizzy, thank you for gifting subs. Very kind of you. Now Haldor Lindon, son of Hathol, son of Magor, son of Malak, Arad. Okay, hang on. Tolkien. Okay, so remember the guy Malak, who I said had one son that had one letter difference to Marak? This is one of his ancestors. So here we go. Hador Lindon, who is the son of Hathol, son of Magor, son of Malak. Malak was the son of one of the original men that came over. So this is like his ancestor, right? Or 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth great grandson. God, Tolkien does not make this easy for me, does he? Telvin, thank you for the gift subs again. Y'all are killing it today. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I mean killing it in the good sense of giving me support. It really does help out the channel, so thank you. All right. Here we go. Again, 5-generation great-grandson, just here we go. Now, Hador Lorid. I can't even get through it. Hang on. Now, Hador Lorindal. Come on, Marshall, you can do this. Now, Hador Lorindal, son of Hathor, son of Maegor, son of Malak Aradan, entered the household of Fingolfin in his youth and was loved by the king. Fingolfin, therefore, gave to him the lordship of Dor-Lomin, and into that land he gathered most of the people of his kin, and became the mightiest of the chieftains of the Edain. In his house only the elven tongue was spoken, but their own speech was not forgotten, and from it came the common tongue of Numenor. We know what Numenor is, right? Those of you that have watched my TikToks and that have watched the movies and read the books, we know what's going on. Tin Fizzy, again with the gift subs. Are you and Telvin having some kind of competition between who can give more? Please do not go into financial distress. Please do not spend more money than you are capable of it. I appreciate the support, but I'm doing okay, right? Thank you. Thank you. It is much appreciated, but don't fight. All right, here we go. So again, Marak. Whoa! Binimin and Asuna just gifting out 10 subs. Okay. I gotta pause for just a second on that one. Thank you for all of the gift subs. Chat, you are wonderful. Okay. Thank you, Binimin and Asuna. Much appreciated. Is that a Sword Art Online reference? Because Asuna is the only Sword Art. That's the only thing I know of all of the of that name. All right, cool. It is. Well, thank you. Much appreciated. Thank you all. This has been great. Telvin, Tin, Biniman, everyone who has gifted a sub. Thank you. This is very helpful to the stream. Again, please don't spend money unless you are able, right? I'm doing okay. Thank you. Okay, cool. Thank you, Biniman. So it is. She is SAO. Cool. Okay. All right. I'm going to keep going. Thank you. Thank you for the kindness war. But again, don't spend money unless you can afford it. Please. I'm doing okay, right? We've got the merch. We've got the Twitch subs. We've got the creator content. I'm doing okay for the fact that this is a hobby. Also, sorry to everyone on YouTube. Chat's going a little crazy here. Anyway, let's keep it going. Okay, so we just learned about Aragorn's ancestors. The sons of Hador were Galdor and Gundor, and the sons of Galdor were Hurin and Huor. I'm going to repeat that one more time. The sons of Galdor were Hurin and Huor. The sons of Galdor were Hurin and Huor. These are important people. Tin, Fizzy, Darth, Pudding, y'all, you're just gifting out subs. Thank you. Okay, well, Tin just gifted out 5 more. Darth just gifted out 2. Or no, gifting 1 tier 1 sub. Thank you. Pudding Cup gifting out 2 tier 1 subs. Y'all, thank you. Y'all, again, you don't have, if you want to spend money and help support, you can always buy merch and get something out of it. If you really thank you. It's very kind of you to do. The link to my Twitch is or my merch store should be down below, or it's the link in my TikTok. I can put it in the chat as well. You do buy merch. Well, thank you, Tin. All right. Well, thank you, y'all. This was wonderful. I'm touched by your support and kindness. Thank you. This means a lot. I'm not gonna cry on stream like last time that something like this happened, but once again, thank you. It is much appreciated. Whew, okay. I gotta finish this chapter. Pudding, Tin, Bennymin, Telvin, Darth, thank you. This is great. If I missed anyone that gifted a sub, let me know if you did and I missed it. Thank you. All right. Let's continue with the last portion of this. This is an important part, which is why I wanna emphasize it, because we get some lineage. The sons of Hador were Galdor and Gundor, and the sons of Galdor were Hurin and Huor, and the sons of Hurin were Turin, the bane of Glaurung, and the son of Huor was Tuor, father of Earendil, the blessed. The son of Boromir, different Boromir, was Bregor, whose son was Bregolas and Barahir. And the son of Bregolas was Beregund and Belegund, and the daughter of Baragund was Morwen, and the mother of Turin, and the daughter of Belegund was Rhain, the mother of Tuor. But the son of Barahir was Beren One-Hand, who won the love of Luthien, Thingol's daughter, and returned from the dead. From them came Elwing, the wife of Earendil, and all the kings of Númenor after. Whew, that is one paragraph to describe the entire lineage of Tolkien's legendarium of humans. You're welcome. Let's break this down, because we've only got, a half a page left. Here we go. So, the sons of Hador were Galdor and Gundor. We don't have to worry about them. The sons of Galdor were Hurin and Huor. Hurin and Huor. You need to remember Hurin and Huor. Hurin especially. The sons of Hurin was Turin, the bane of Glaurung. Turin is also very important. There is an entire book called Children of Hurin. One of those children is Turin. We're going to see it there. This is a 300-page book. It's important. Big flashing symbols going off. The son of Huor was Tuor, father of Earendil. If you have seen any of my TikToks, you know that Earendil is Elrond's dad. Bing, bing, bing. Very important. Pay attention to him. The son of Boromir was Bregor, whose sons were Bregolas and Barahir. If you have seen some of my videos, you know that Aragorn wears a ring called the Ring of Barahir. Barahir is important, or Barahir, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Also, Bennymin, thank you again for the gift sub. Once again, it is much appreciated. Wow, that's a lot of subs. Okay. Thank you. Okay, keep this going. The daughter of Baragund was Morwen. Morwen's important, remember her. The mother of Turin. So Morwen and Hurin have a son named Turin. It's important. And the daughter of Baragund was Rhain, the mother of Tuor. But the son of Barahir was Beren One-Hand, who won the love of Luthien Thingol's daughter and returned from death, from whom came Elwing, the wife of Earendil, and all of the kings of Númenor. Now, not to belittle the point of Tolkien being as subtle as a train wreck, there is an entire book called The Tale of Beren and Luthien. So that one paragraph, you don't realize it at the time, is super important. Please go back and watch this. Let me read it again, because it's important. Actually, no, you can go back and rewatch it again on YouTube if you want. Just remember, it's important. All right. All these were caught in the net of the doom of the Noldor, and they did great deeds, which the Eldar remember still among the histories of the kings of old. And in those days the strength of men was added to the power of the Noldor, and their hope was high, and Morgoth was straitly enclosed, for the people of Hador, being hardy to endure cold and long wandering, feared not at times to go far into the north, and there keep watch upon the movements of the enemy. And the men of the three houses throve and multiplied, but greatest among them was the house of Hador Goldenhead, peer of the Elven lords. His people were of great strength and stature, ready in mind, bold and steadfast, quick to anger and to laughter, mighty among the children of Ilúvatar in the youth of mankind. Yellow-haired they were for the most part, and blue-eyed. But not so was Turin, whose mother was Morwen of the house of Beor. The men of that house were dark or brown-haired, with gray eyes, and of all men they were most like to the Noldor, and most loved by them. For they were eager of mind, cunning-handed, swift in understanding, long in memory, and they were moved sooner to pity than to laughter. Like to them were the woodland folk of Halath, but they were lesser in stature, and less eager for lore. They used few words, and did not love great concourse with men. And many among them delighted in solitude, wandering free in the greenwoods, while the wonder of the lands of the Eldar was new upon them. I skipped an entire line. Like to them were the woodland folk of Halath, but they were of lesser stature. My mistake. Let me go back and redo that. All right. Like to them were the woodland folk of Halath. That's the strong female character that Tolkien wrote in this chapter. Woohoo. Finally, thank you, Tolkien. Like to them were the woodland folk of Halath, but they were lesser in stature and less eager for lore. They used few words and did not love great concourse of men, and many among them delighted in solitude, wandering free in the woodlands, while the wonder of the lands of the Eldar was new upon them. But in the realms of the West their time was brief, and their days unhappy. The years of the Edain were lengthened, according to the reckoning of men, after their coming into Beleriand. But at last Beor the Old died when he had lived 93 years, for 44 of which he had served King Felagund. And when he lay dead, of no wound or grief, but stricken by age, the Eldar saw for the first time the swift waning of the life of men, and the death of weariness, which they knew not themselves. And they grieved greatly for the loss of their friend. But Beor, at the last, had relinquished his life willingly, and passed in peace. And the Eldar wondered much at the strange fate of men, for in all their lore there was no account of it, and its end was hidden from them. Nonetheless, the Edain of old learned swiftly of the Eldar all such art and knowledge as they could perceive, and their sons and daughters, I'm adding that part, and their sons and daughters increased in wisdom and skill, until they far surpassed all other of mankind, whom dwelt still east of the mountains, and had not seen the Eldar, nor looked upon the faces that had beheld the light of Valinor. All right. That ends chapter 17. And oh god, that's 11 more pages. Oh. Y'all want me to keep going? Y'all want me to keep going? I think I kind of want to keep going. Let me know in chat if you want me to keep going. I usually don't. I usually try and do a chapter at a time. How many chapters are left in the Quenta Silmarillion? Hang on. Let me find out. So we are on page 151, and this part of the story of the first age is 251. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah, all right. We can do one more. We can do one more. You're not going to like this one. You're going to be really sad. And after that, it's the of Beren and Luthien is the chapter after the next one. After all those gifts, yeah. You know what? I Thank you. Yeah, we'll do another chapter. All right, here we go. Sorry, folks on YouTube, this is going to be a much longer video. Pause here if you would like, or strap in. Or maybe, actually, can I do this? Yeah, let me stop here on YouTube. No, we'll keep it going. We'll keep it going. This will just be a longer one. Here we go. Also, thank you, Spidey. Much appreciated. Also, just once again, if anyone is interested on TikTok, please come over to the Twitch channel. The link is in my bio. The audio quality is better. I have this microphone. The video quality is better. Everyone in chat is really nice, and we all just kind of hang out and have a lot of fun. Okay. I'm feeling this adrenaline, y'all. Thank you again. Chapter 18. Of the Ruin of Beleriand and the Fall of Fingolfin. This is not going to be a fun chapter, everybody. I hope you know what you got yourself into. All right, here we go. Chapter 18. Of the Ruin of Beleriand and the Fall of Fingolfin. If you don't have tissues, get them now. Now Fingolfin, king of the north, and the high king of the Noldor, seeing that his people were become numerous and strong, and that men allied to them were many and valiant, pondered once more an assault on Angband. So remember, the last few chapters we've had this kind of, okay, 100, 200, 300 years, we're fine. This one we're not so fine. This one's going to have war in it. So this is Fingolfin. For he knew that they lived in danger while the circle of the siege was incomplete, and Morgoth was free to labor in his mines, devising what evils none could foretell ere he should reveal them. This counsel was wise according to the measure of his knowledge, for the Noldor did not yet comprehend the fullness of the power of Morgoth, nor understand that their unaided war upon him was without final hope. Remember, ages and ages ago, the doom of Mandos, that lesser god, that Valar, said, you can't do this without the Valar's help. You're doomed. That still holds true. But because the land was fair and their kingdoms wide, most of the Noldor were content with things as they were, trusting them to last, and slow to begin the assault in which many must surely perish, were it in victory or defeat. Therefore, they were little disposed to hearken to Fingolfin, the sons of Feanor at the time least of all. Among the chieftains of the Noldor, Angrod and Aegnor alone were in the mind of the king, for they dwelt in regions whence Thangorodrim could be descried, and the threat of Morgoth was present to their thought. So they're really close to Morgoth. Their realms are really close to Morgoth. Thus the designs of Fingolfin came to naught, and the land had peace yet for a while. But when the 6th generation of men after Beor and Marach were not yet come to full manhood, it being then 400 years and 55 since the coming of Fingolfin, the evil befell that he had long dreaded, and yet more dire and sudden than his darkest fear. For Morgoth had long prepared his force in secret, while ever the malice of his heart grew greater, and his hatred of the Noldor grew more bitter, and he desired not only to end his foes, but to destroy also, and defile the lands that they had taken and made fair. And it is said that his hate overcame his counsel, so that if he had but endured to wait longer until his desires were full, then the Noldor would have perished utterly. But on his part he esteemed too lightly the valor of the elves, and the men he took yet no account. There came a time of winter, when night was dark and without moon, and the wide plain of Ardgarland stretched dim beneath the cold stars, from the hill forts of the Noldor to the feet of Thangorodrim. The watchfires burned low in the camps of the horsemen of Hithlum. The watchfires burned low, and the guards were few on the plains. Few were waking in the camps of the horsemen of Hithlum. Then suddenly, Morgoth sent forth great rivers of flame that ran down swifter than Balrogs from Thangorodrim, and poured all over the plains, and the mountain of iron belched forth fires of many poisonous hues, and the fumes of them stank upon the air, and was deadly. Thus Ardgarlin perished, and fire devoured its grasses, and it became a burned and desolate waste, full of choking dust, barren and lifeless. Thereafter, its name was changed to Anfauglith, the gasping dust. Many charred bones had been their roofless graves, for many of the Noldor perished in that burning, who were caught in the running flame, and could not fly to the hills. The heights of Dorthonion and Eredwethrin held back the fiery torrents, but their woods upon the slopes that looked down towards Angband were all kindled, and the smoke wrought confusion among the defenders. Thus began the fourth of the great battles, the Dagor Bragolok, the Battle of Sudden Flame. This is it. In the front of that fire came Glaurung the Golden, father of dragons, in his full might, and in his train were Balrogs behind them. And behind them came the black armies of the orcs, in multitudes such as the Noldor had never seen or imagined, and they assaulted the fortresses of the Noldor and broke the leaguer of Angband, and they slew whatever they found, Noldor and their allies. Grey elves and men, many of the stoutest of the foes of Morgoth, were destroyed in the first days of that war, bewildered and dispersed and unable to muster their strength. War ceased not wholly ever again in Beleriand, but the Battle of Sudden Flame is held to have ended with the coming of spring, when the onslaught of Morgoth grew less. Thus ended the siege of Angband, and the foes of Morgoth were scattered and sundered from one another. The most part of the Grey Elves fled south and forsook the northern war. Many were received into Doriath, and the kingdoms and strength of Thingol grew greater at that time. For the power of Melian the Queen was woven about his borders, and evil could not yet enter that hidden realm. Remember, magical elven force field is great for keeping out Morgoth. For now. Others took refuge in the fortresses by the sea and in Nargothrond, and some fled to the land and hid themselves in Osiriand, or passing the mountains wandered homeless in the wild. And rumor of the war and the breaking of the siege reached the ears of men in the east of Middle-earth. The sons of Finarfin bore most heavily the brunt of the assault, and Angrod and Aegnor were slain. Beside them fell Bregolas, lord of the house of Beor, and a great part of the warriors of that people. But Barahir, the brother of Bregolas, was in the fighting further westward, near the pass of Sirion. There, King Finrod Felagund, hastening from the south, was cut off from his people, and surrounded with a small company in the fen of Serek. And he would have been slain or taken, but Barahir came up with the bravest of his men, and rescued him, and made a wall of spears about him, and they cut their way out of the battle with great loss. Thus Felagund escaped, and returned to his deep fortress of Nargothrond, but he swore an oath of abiding friendship and aid in every need to Barahir and all of his kin, and in token of his vow he gave to Barahir his ring. Barahir was now a right lord in the house of Beor, and he returned to Dorthonion, but most of his people fled from their homes and took refuge in the fastness of Hithlum. Oh, it gets so much worse. So great was the onslaught of Morgoth that Fingolfin and Fingon could not come to the aid of the sons of Finarfin, and the host of Hithlum was driven back with great loss to the fortress of Eredwethrin, and these were hardly defended against the orcs. Before the walls of Ethel Sirion fell Hador, the golden-haired, defending the rear guard of his lord Fingolfin, being then 66 years of age. And with him fell Gundor, his youngest son, pierced with many arrows, and they were mourned by the elves. Then Galdor the Tall took the lordship of his father, and because of the strength and the height of the shadowy mountains, which withstood the torrent of fire, and by the valor of the elves and the men of the north, which neither Orc nor Balrog could yet overcome, Hithlum remained unconquered, a threat upon the flank of Morgoth's attack. But Fingolfin was sundered from his kinsmen by a sea of foes. You'll remember in the map, or maybe it might be a good time. Actually, maybe I can get it out. This is as good a time as any to get the map out. And remember, Hithlum is over there on the right side. Yeah, that'll be left. No, your left side. So Hithlum is over there on the left side. And East Beleriand is there. So basically, like here, all the way down, just a giant plume of fire and smoke, and there's a giant, like, line of enemies, and the elves are separated from each other. For the war had gone ill with the sons of Feanor, and well nigh all of the east marches were taken by assault. The pass of Aglon was forced, though at great cost to the host of Morgoth, and Celegor and Curufin, who are two of the sons of Feanor, being defeated, fled south and west by the marches of Doriath, and coming at long last to Nargothrond, sought harbor with Finrod Felagund. Thus it came to pass that their people swelled the strength of Nargothrond, but it would have been better, as was afterwards seen, if they had remained in the east among their own kin. Maethros did deeds of surpassing valor, and the orcs fled before his face, for since his torment upon Thangorodrim, remember, Maethros is the one that got hung by his arm on a mountain when he was trying to spy on Morgoth. He's the one that, cut off his own hand. Yeah. Oh, you can't see it on TikTok. You know what? I would not actually be able to show it on TikTok because it would be too long. You wouldn't be able to see it. Come over on Twitch though. Sorry, lost my place. I get so hype reading this part. Okay. Thus it came to pass that their people, blah, blah, blah. Thus the great fortress upon the hill of Himring could not be taken, and many of the most valiant that remained, both of the people of Darthonion and of the east marches, rallied there to Maethros. For a while he closed once more upon the pass of Aglon, so that the orcs could not enter Beleriand by that road. But they overwhelmed the riders of the people of Feanor upon Lathlan, for Glaurung came hither, and passed through Maglor's Gap, and destroyed all the lands between the arms of Gelion, and the orcs took the fortress upon the west slopes of Mount Rerir. Rerir? R-E-R-I-R. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm gonna just keep going. And the orcs took the fortress upon the west slope of Mount Rerir, and ravaged all Thargelion, the land of Caranthir, and they defiled Lake Helivorn. Thence they passed over Gelion with fire and terror, and came far into East Beleriand. Maglor joined Maethros upon Himring, but Caranthir fled and joined the remnants of his people to a scattered folk of the hunters. Don't worry, if you don't understand where any of this is, I will explain it in a bit. But Caranthir fled and joined the remnants of his people to the scattered folk of the hunters, Amrod and Amras, and they retreated and passed Ramdal in the south. Upon Amon Ereb they maintained a watch, and some strength of war. And they had aid of the green elves, and the orcs came not into Osiriand, nor to Tower Im Duniath, and the wilds of the south. Okay, I'm going to pause there, because there is a lot happening. Okay. So, basically all you need to know is, I need to find, where's my map? Here is the map. There is a giant crack basically down the middle over here in East Beleriand. So the orcs are encroaching here, right? The orcs are also trying to... Hang on. Let me put the bookmark in and do this properly. I did the map a few weeks ago, and now I want to do it again. Here we go. Also, if you're on TikTok, come over to Twitch. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. I will explain as best I can. All right, see Hithlum? Hithlum in the top left-hand corner? That's still there. See Ard Garland? That's gone. That's absolutely gone. See Lothlun in the top left-hand corner? That's also gone. So Celegorum and Curufin in that sort of middle left-hand corner, just below Lothlun, in the top right, yeah, that's basically where they're held up, and most of the northern parts of all of this gone. And then they have to kind of go around here through because Darthonian, because Ard Garland is totally gone, so they can't cross here and there. It's a mess. It's a mess. Again, not a hugely important part. Yeah, Chris from Space makes a great point. See that part of the map? Gone, right? Just totally gone. Let's continue. This is great. All right. So great was the blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay. Oh, God, we're getting to that part. Hang on. This is one of my top 5 favorite chapters in the Silmarillion, and this coming up is one of my top 5 favorite paragraphs that Tolkien ever wrote. Strap in. Now news came to Hithlum that Darthonion was lost and the sons of Finarfin overthrown, and that the sons of Feanor were driven from their lands. Then Fingolfin beheld, as it seemed to him, the utter ruin of the Noldor, and the defeat beyond redress of all their houses, and filled with wrath and despair, he mounted upon Rockalor, his great horse, and rode forth alone, and none might restrain him. He passed over Dor Newfauglith like the wind amid the dust. And all that beheld his onset fled in amaze, thinking that Orome himself was come. For a great madness of rage was upon him, so that his eyes shone like the eyes of the Valar. Thus he came alone to Angband's gates, and he sounded his horn, and smote once more upon the brazen door, and challenged Morgoth to come forth to single combat. And Morgoth came. That was the last time in those wars that he passed the doors of his stronghold, and it is said that he took not the challenge willingly. For though his might was greatest of all things in the world, alone of the Valar, he knew fear. But he could not now deny the challenge before the face of his captains, for the rocks rang with shrill music of Fingolfin's horns, and his voice came keen and clear down into the depths of Angband. And Fingolfin named Morgoth Craven, and Lord of Slaves. Therefore Morgoth came, climbing slowly from his subterranean throne, and the rumor of his feet was like thunder underground. And he issued forth, clad in black armor, and he stood before the king like a tower, iron-crowned, and his vast shield, sable unblazoned, cast a shadow over him like a storm cloud. But Fingolfin gleamed beneath it like a star, for his mail was overlaid with silver, and his blue shield was set with crystals, and he knew his sword Ringil, that glittered like ice. Yeah. I'm going to take a break real quick because my air conditioning just turned on, and I need to turn it off because this is important. We're back. Ready? Also, Tin, thank you for the gift sub. For nigh on 2 years after the Dagor... Oh, excuse me. I almost skipped a page there. Oh, here we go. Then Morgoth hurled aloft Grond, the hammer of the underworld, and swung it down like a bolt of thunder. But Fingolfin sprang aside, and Grond rent a mighty pit in the earth, whence smoke and fire darted. Many times Morgoth essayed to smite him, and each time Fingolfin leapt away, as a lightning shoots from under a dark cloud, and he wounded Morgoth 7 times. And 7 times Morgoth gave a cry of anguish, whereas the host of Angband fell upon their faces in despair, and the cries echoed in the Northlands. But at the last, the king grew weary, and Morgoth bore down his shield upon him. Thrice he was crushed to his knees, and thrice arose again, and bore up his broken shield and stricken helm. But the earth was all rent and pitted about him, and he stumbled and fell backwards before the feet of Morgoth. And Morgoth set his left foot upon his neck, and the weight of it was like a fallen hill. Yet with his last and desperate stroke, Fingolfin hewn the foot with Ringil, and the blood gushed forth black and smoking, and filled the pits of Grond. Thus died Fingolfin, High King of the Noldor, most proud and valiant of the elven kings of old. The orcs made no boast of that duel at the gate. Neither do the elves sing of it, for their sorrow is too deep. Yet the tale of it is remembered still, for Thorondor, king of the eagles, brought tidings to Gondolin and to Hithlum afar, and Morgoth took the body of the elven king and broke it, and would cast it to his wolves, but Thorondor came hasting from his eyrie among the peaks of the Crissaegrim, and he stooped upon Morgoth and marred his face. The rushing of the wings of Thorondor was like the noise of a wind of Manwë, and he seized the body in his mighty talons, and soaring suddenly above the darts of the orcs, he bore the king away, and he laid him upon a mountaintop that looked from the north upon the hidden valley of Gondolin. And Turgon, coming, built a high cairn over his father. No orc dared ever to pass over the mount of Fingolfin or draw nigh to his tomb until the doom of Gondolin was come and the treachery was born among his kin. Morgoth went ever halt of 1 foot after that day, and the pain of his wound could not be healed. And in his face was the scar that Thorondor had made. Great was the lamentation in Hithlum when the fall of Fingolfin became known, and Fingon, in sorrow, took lordship of the house of Fingolfin and the kingdom of the Noldor. But his young son, Eärenion, who was after named Gil-galad, he sent to the Havens. I will stop there for this week. Thank you all so much for joining me. Folks on YouTube, I know this was a bit of a longer episode, but thank you for being here for this long. If you have made it this far into the story, it only gets better, more sad. I can't quite put it into words how good this is. Thank you, YouTube. I will see you all next time.